That's Chris.
We get it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, great. I would like to call to order the Westerly Public School School Building Subcommittee meeting for Wednesday, May 24th, 2023. The time is 6:01. We have a full house, almost a full house for the building committee. We have members in attendance: John Pagano, Chris Lund, Audrey Fover, Chris Duhamel, Dan Lathrop, Kristen Federico, Cindy Kirchhoff, Mike Ober, Mark Garceau, Alicia Story, and myself, Justin Hopkins. We also have with us as guests, Deb Reading and Joe DeSanti from Downs, Julia McFadden and John Scheib from the TSKP NCA team, and Ashley Prester from DBVW. We also have in attendance as part of agenda item number 6, Erica Hammond and Michael Rose from Climate Jobs RI. Did I miss anyone in that roll call?
The senator says she's in the room.
Okay. Okay, so the first order of business, how slow do we need to approve meeting minutes, John?
She said about 20, but start with that.
Okay. Okay, first order of business is approval of meeting minutes. You should have all received the minutes from our May 10th, 2023 subcommittee meeting. If there are no modifications to the meeting minutes, we'll entertain a motion to approve.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions?
I did.
An
I don't
abstention.
think I was on that.
Okay.
meeting.
Okay. got it. The next order of business is approval of invoices. However, I do not believe we have any invoices. Where contracts are making their way through the,
They
you
are,
guys are.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, we have, the draft responses are actually in good shape with getting them executed.
okay, excellent. Next, item is item number 5, public comment. Any members of the public wish to address the subcommittee? Sir? Just state your name, and your comments.
I didn't realize there'd be so many people in here. This is fun. My name is Trey Serra. I'm the phys ed teacher at Duns Corners School. I've been a phys ed teacher in the district most of the time at Duns Corners for 25 years. I'm here with a concern about the plan for Duns Corners School. First of all, I'm ecstatic that we're getting a new gym floor. It's long overdue. It's crumbling under our feet, and I'm really, really happy about that. Over the weekend, I was told that my equipment closet was going to be turned into an elevator. And just before I get into that, I want to give you a little bit of history behind the equipment closet in my gym. So for most of my career, we had a huge closet. It was perfect. We could fit all the equipment in there. We didn't have any problems. And then I came back to school after one summer, and the computer department had taken over that closet, and all my equipment was on the stage. And I didn't want to see that happen again, so that's why I'm here today. So to rectify that situation, they gave me a smaller closet on the other side of the gym, but it wasn't nearly big enough. So a carpenter came in and built me a small closet on the stage. So with the 2 closets, the smaller one and the wooden one on the stage, I had enough room for all my equipment. But now the main closet that all my equipment is stored in is going to become a handicapped elevator shaft. I don't know what you would call it, but it's going to be where you access the handicapped elevator. So the person that told me said, you should probably go to the meeting and express your concerns because there's no other plan for my equipment. I did hear a suggestion that I could use the cafeteria because it's no longer going to be a cafeteria. That is an absolute major inconvenience. The gym isn't anywhere near the cafeteria, and teaching K through 4, I don't teach the same lesson to every class. So there's tons of equipment that I need throughout the day, or something could come up where the kids aren't adjusting to what I thought they would do that day, and I need to go backwards This was something we had done before, and I could just walk over to the closet and grab the equipment. I can't imagine saying to the kids, hold on a second, I have to go downstairs and get those smaller foam balls because the bigger ones are too big. So I invite the building committee to come to Dunn's Corner School and, hey, if you can find me some other place to store my equipment that's adjacent to the gym, I'm all for it. I'm trying to be flexible. I really appreciate the new gym floor. But having my equipment in the basement while I'm teaching in the gym on the first floor is, to me, unacceptable, especially for the amount of money we're spending on this project. Good?
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna, before I turn it over to any other members of the subcommittee to comment, you shouldn't have to address the subcommittee with these type of concerns, okay? We're paying an owner's project manager and we're paying a design team to work with the administration and the faculty on space planning and everything. So I know we're trying to move pretty quickly to at least get the flooring in play for this summer. The concern at the last subcommittee meeting was that we have a non-conforming accessible lift that's at the location of the stage. We need to develop options if we're going to replace the flooring underneath it, or if we're going to provide a ramp. There's also a safety concern with the location of that. So there are all kinds of other moving parts that are part of that consideration. One of them that was discussed at the last meeting was possibly trying to relocate that lift. Hearing, now that should be workshopped with the entire group and develop a solution that's satisfactory to your storage needs for the gymnasium.
Can I respond for a second? Is that illegal?
We have a little wider bandwidth here. Go ahead.
So like you said, the administrator would be involved and no disrespect to my principal because I absolutely love him to death. He's the one that suggested I store my equipment in the cafeteria.
Okay.
So personally, I'd like to be involved in the decision and not come back from summer vacation and have my equipment sitting on the stage. And I'm not trying to be, again, disrespectful or anything like that. I just don't want any surprises when I come back. 25 years of this job, I don't like surprises.
Okay. I referenced the rest of the team that's on here in an effort to hopefully foster a greater dialogue with the faculty and the stakeholders that are occupying each building where we're doing renovations. So hopefully that message is received. We're going to develop a solution. Any other members of
Yeah,
the?
could I, so I don't believe there was any discussion of using the cafeteria as a solution. Equipment, was there?
It sounds like that was potentially a solution that was floated out. No.
Right, but nothing that came out of this body. So the conversation, Tracy, what do we do with that lift? We have to have a lift so that there's access. And Justin's right, we'll actually have to look at probably the building situation. That lift where it is creates a safety hazard.
I agree.
And there are a few different options that were kind of floated last time we met, but again, using the cafeteria wasn't one of them. So Steve's getting a little creative there.
Justin, man.
Sure.
So I just want to thank you for coming, Trace, and I just think for the committee that it's a perfect example of it's very important that the teachers are part of this process. The administrators know, they know a global, but the teachers are the people that are in these classrooms every day, managing them and knowing what's going on. They are your first responders. You know what I mean? They are your people.
Boots
So
on the ground.
they are, and I appreciate you coming because it's what matters in all of this.
Doesn't come.
Yeah.
I think this is a good point in general that we're going to find a lot of discussions about these additional spaces that may be overlooked because of the need for, we look at the classroom only, but storage in every school I've got, even every school probably here in the district is always at a premium and people are fighting for it. And that's just one of those spaces that we have to make sure we don't neglect as we go through this, because otherwise people will continue to fight in the future for it.
Justin?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's to speak to the process, I believe, what Dr. Gasso said as well, we're evaluating different opportunities and nothing's set in stone. We haven't heard from the architect in Downs. So appreciate you coming too.
Well, I didn't want to wait and do it when it was too late. So
Right,
That's why I came today.
But
I mean, you may not have that plan, but that's what I was told.
No,
and
but-
so I said I should come here and address it now before it's too late.
that was the solution that was put out there and nothing was vetted out and my understanding that we're gonna work with this. Teacher something anyways.
So so we know that there are a couple of things that we need to address with that particular issue. There's the obvious, there's the gym flooring replacement. There's what to do with the lift that's there. And, you know, whether or not that potential solution becomes embargoed from storage. I'm not suggesting that that's the path forward, but any type of these decisions that need to be made, there needs to, if we just cannot displace storage without accommodating it within the building or in the gymnasium proper. So
There was also, if I could, Trace, while you're here, a couple months back, you pointed out issues or concerns about exterior windows that you were afraid you might lose in the redesign that bring you a degree of air turnover and airflow in there. Is that still?
No, so I don't believe so, because the new plan is that the main office is gonna stay where it is.
Yeah.
Am I correct? And they're going to add a cafeteria with a kitchen. So if they do that, they won't block my windows. The original plan was where Steve Marone's office is, they were gonna blow it straight out and it would be adjacent to my windows. So they would have to block those windows because I'd be looking into Steve's office.
Yeah, no, gotcha. I just want to make sure we.
Yeah,
don't track
so
that issue.
I'm not up on the information, but that's what I believe. Is that true? That
we're working through a number of options that include exactly what you just referenced, the revision in the design, which I think has been favorable to the building subcommittee in our analysis. So I know that was a lot of words to say. I agree with it. What you said was it's just, we're in this initial planning and schematic design phase where a lot of options are being discussed at the building subcommittee. And unfortunately, Ashley also has the task, the gentleman directly to your right, has the task of implementing some of the flooring replacement projects that we want to do this summer. So we're trying to move quickly on one hand, but also be deliberate in design decisions on the other.
I look at it this way. I've been in that gym for 25 years. I probably have spent more time in there than in my home. So these decisions really do impact.
Yeah.
Me.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any other members of the public wish to address the building subcommittee? Okay, hearing none. So the next agenda item is state representative and labor presentation. We've had a couple other folks join us here. Are we waiting on the senators?
We don't have, she said her team could stop.
Okay. Feel free to come up. Thank you, Trace.
Thank you.
So we have this as an agenda item that we've scheduled this, I think, one previous time.
1, 2, 3 times.
I think we've got several people here. I think we've got several different things to say. Let me start out. My name is Greg Mancini. I'm involved with a trades organization called Build Around. I'm also in the North Kingstown Town Council, and we're also considering a significant bond ourselves. That will be very brief. I put together a small paper and you can pass it out.
Justin, yes?
Yes, sir. Yep.
I put some stuff in the file. If you wanted to throw it up on the screen, the stuff you had shared with me,
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
if you want to.
Yeah, let's, if, let Gregory go and then I'll break into what I'm gonna talk about. I have hard copies as well as, what you have digital, and I appreciate it, John.
So we're all gonna talk about, I guess, different things, so,
But they intersect, so.
and they do intersect. So I represent a trade organization called Build Around, and we're comprised of 4 different contractor associations and 17 different labor unions. And passing around information sheet, or actually a letter to you. I'm not gonna go through it, I'll let you read through it. But it explains a little bit of our organization, explains a little bit about construction pre-hire agreements. And explains a little bit about the role of pre-hire agreements in the construction industry. And it talks about how prevalent they are on Rhode Island projects, Rhode Island public works projects. And long and the short of it is many public entities are going through an assessment. And they're going through a process where on large complex projects, they do an independent analysis to determine whether or not to utilize or require construction pre-hire agreement for union labor. And I just want to tell you that there's only one reason to do that, and that is because it's in your community's economic best interest. And but don't believe me, I encourage you to hire independent counsel to make your own assessment. In fact, if you go to the last page of my commentary on my letter, there's a number of projects that are doing that process. Basically, $1.5 billion worth of construction work around for many communities that are going through that process. And I'm here to encourage you to do so. Any questions, I'm here for you. I think we're going for a lot with your agenda. I think they have a lot to say. I don't want to bore you. There's a lot here. And certainly it's questions now and the future. I am more than willing to answer those. Yes.
Is there a cost that goes with it?
There is an initial cost that goes with it, and that is the cost of the assessment. Usually that goes from $10,000 to $15,000. What at the end of the day, what these construction pre-hire agreements do for you is they provide certainty. There's a lot of uncertainty in any construction project, and I believe they provide certainty with processes that ensure that your project is delivered timely and safely, and hopefully and usually within budget. But there are also so many. I don't want to make that representation because there's so many factors in that. But I will say to you that you have a dependable agreement that allows your project to proceed without interruption. So, but I would say to you, it's not a cost as much as an investment.
Can you describe what that interruption would be? Just so everybody can weigh that.
Absolutely. So at any job site, there could be disputes between workers, disputes between contractors, collective bargaining agreements lapse, and there could be disputes between contractors and unions that could cause people to walk off the job. Let me give you a couple of examples. A couple of years ago, URI had a significant capital project, and they had construction pre-hire agreement in place, and that's why they're on the list to do so many in the future now. And the Teamsters Union went on strike, and every place in the state was not getting concrete, except for URI and a couple of other. And that may not be a big deal, but I can tell you for schools, it's a really big deal. You know, another one was sheet metal workers, their collective bargaining agreement lapse on a particular project. River House student housing project for Brown, and they went on strike, and the project next door was under a pre-hire agreement, and they continued. But the other thing is, more than that, though, is you really have immediate access to skilled labor. The pre-hire agreement requires the unions on the job to have labor available. If not, they have to go through regional and national outlets and networks to supply these projects with skilled labor, really at the core. Lastly, our pre-hire agreements, we have worked with communities to create a pipeline for young adults in their community to be trained in construction trade union apprenticeship programs. So we work with communities to allow that to happen. Really, basically a career development program for young adults who have an interest in trades. So yes, sir.
Are there any trades not represented within the organization?
So there's no trades not represent, no union trades not represented. The operating engineers are not part of the building trades, but they are actually part of in my organization. An excellent question. So, it's kind of convoluted. It's a lot for you to take in. And so if any questions after this, I'm trying to be cognizant of your time too. And you wanted to answer your question on Joe. It's a Joe's point.
Yeah, so Mr. Chair, if I could take a moment. So we have performed these studies in Providence and Newport. We can do it through our agreement. It is an expense that ranges around $10,000, but it's a study that we can perform fairly quickly. We are actually in the process of doing another one for Providence right now. The majority of our projects that we're working on, Build Around Futures is involved in. Excellent organization, and I highly recommend that the building committee reviews it and conducts a study.
Great. What's the content of the study, Joe?
It compares the major projects that are happening and what that might affect each project or specifically that specific region.
Okay.
So for example, in Providence, because there's so much construction going on, and are there qualified contractors there to do that work and what the effect that might be? Sure.
Also weighs the importance of timeliness.
Yeah.
Any questions on? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate it. Hi, folks. Thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate the opportunity to talk to you briefly here. My name is Justin Kelly. I'm a business representative with the Painters and Allied Trades, as well as the Director of Business Development for the Rhode Island Building Construction Trades Council. So like Gregory said, everything I'm going to talk about sort of ties in tandem with the ability to use what we like to call more these days a community workforce agreement or a project labor agreement. And essentially what that does is set terms and conditions for your project. And like Greg said, hits it on budget, on time, ensures that you have a local workforce of Rhode Islanders, gives a career pathway to local people to be able to work in the trades. We ensure that we're hiring people from the local communities. We can do things like reach out and talk to, people who are graduating from your classes in the senior year that may be interested in moving into the trades. We also have mandatory utilization of pre-apprenticeship program graduates. We have a great program in Providence called Building Futures, of which I'm proudly a graduate of. I lived in a house in Providence where I'm sad to say, I'm one of the only guys who's been on the front page of the Providence Journal for being broke. I had no work, no opportunities, nothing coming to me. The building trades revolutionized my life. Building Futures revolutionized my life. I had no heat, no oil. It was 40 degrees in my house in the wintertime. I was desperate. Being able to enter into the pre-apprenticeship program, apprenticeship, becoming a journey person, moving forward as a certified industrial and commercial painter, I have now moved into the office and I have a good middle-class living. So it's not just about getting a good product for your building, it's about giving people an opportunity to learn a craft and a skill and change their lives, be able to, put money back into the community and affect themselves and the rest of the community. So let me break into what I really am here to talk to you about though in the meat of things. There's a whole lot of federal funding opportunities that exist right now. And I want to tell you a little bit more about them. And you're right, we got some digital files if you want to put them up and then.
Which particular one?
So I'm gonna breeze through real quick, but I have here first, I'm gonna hand out a couple of handouts on what's called the dynamic glass tax credits, as well as 179B, and I'll pass those around. I don't know if I have enough for everybody, I apologize, but there's two of them here. And then this is a basic synopsis on what we do with the painters and allied trades. And you can pass it down as well. And so essentially, yeah, so here's the dynamic tax credit. So there's a bunch of federal funding opportunities that have come out of the federal government right now that are either enhancements of existing tax code, tax credits, or new pieces with the Inflation Reduction Act, as well as the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. And looking at the dynamic glass tax credit. So essentially what this says, and I'm just going to give you a quick nutshell because we'll be all night if I tell you the nitty-gritty of it. And who really wants to learn that much about glass? I don't know if you're a glazer, I guess you do, but other than that. Essentially, dynamic glass is saying that if you're going to go ahead and do the building envelope, the building facade, if you use dynamic glass product, you're going to get a high return for energy efficiency. It's it's glass. It's like everybody ever have the glasses? I wear contacts now, but you have glasses. You get the ones, the transition lenses when you go outside, and they turn dark and then they turn back when you go in. So the same thing. This is dealing with the sun, and essentially at the right times of the year, it's reflecting the sunlight back out, and in the wintertime, it's bringing it in, right? So you can now put in that dynamic glass with this credit at the same cost as you would be put in regular glass, right? Then we move into talking about 179D itself. 179D is an existing part of the tax code, which was enhanced under the Inflation Reduction Act, which essentially says now if you use the prevailing wage in apprenticeship, which is cooked in with the project labor agreement, the community workforce agreement, you're going to have a much larger return, up to $5 a square foot on what you're looking at from 179D. So that's an upfront thing during the planning and design. We can go into the weeds on that with some other experts and people from energy modeling and district sanity from your OPM from Downs. It's the fact is that this is, again, it's another value add to your potential here for your upcoming construction and renovation. There's a series of other grants as well that are available from the federal government. Renew America Schools is one of them. The competitive grant process. I would encourage you to take a look at that on the next application window as something that you can, potentially avail yourself of. It is very competitive. There was, I want to say, 300 times the amount of applicants versus availability. But I think it's one of those things where you see if there's a huge amount of interest and demand, then supply is going to be, brought up to speed, right? So I would encourage you to take a further look at that Renew America Schools, and we can talk more in detail about what that looks like in that application process. But once again, your grant application is more competitive when you have things like the execution of community workforce agreement, prevailing wages, apprenticeship, local hires, energy efficiency in the grant application, right? So all of these things here those kind of bring that together into a full circle. The last thing I want to kind of break into, excuse me, I'm so sorry. So this is sort of an upfront quality assurance idea here. Okay, so I'm going to pass these around. These essentially say pretty much the similar things, but two different versions here. This is a certification that's called NACC and AGMT. And NACC is for a contractor site, AGMT is a worker proficiency certification. It stands for Architectural Glass and Metal Technician. Essentially what that's saying is, okay, so if you're going to take a look at any of the things, and my friend Michael Rolls here from Rhode Island Climate Jobs is going to tell you a little bit more about some state level funding that exists that you can avail yourself of if you're going to do things like heat pumps, right? I got one in my house, bought a house, enjoys the home ownership, right? The water heater went within the first year of buying the house. It's not good. It was oil fired. So I'm doing all this research and I find that, wow, there's a bunch of, I can essentially get this thing for like half off because it's a heat pump version, right? So it just sucks the heat out of the air and can go down to like absolute zero. It's really fascinating technology to me. It takes the heat out of the atmosphere and that makes the hot water. So same thing, you can do that here on a commercial level with all of your heating needs. You can get these heat pump products. solar panels, you know what solar panels are. So if you're doing these renewable energy pieces, that's good stuff, right? You're lowering your costs, makes you eligible for a bunch of these grants and incentives on the state and federal level. But now I call it the dad effect, okay? I got 2 young daughters now. I got a 1-year-old and I got a 4-year-old. The 4-year-old likes to open the window in the middle of the winter. I go, Abigail, what are you doing? You can't open the window in the middle of the winter. We got the heat on. She doesn't know. But the fact is that it's literally just going out the window, right? I'm paying for the heat going out the window. Same thing here. If you prioritize your building envelope, making sure that that's sound, you're not going to be having your heat and cooling literally going out the window. So this AGMT NACT is an upfront quality assurance. If you specify this into your product specifications for your building, you're going to make sure that you have contractors and workers that are certified by a third party, qualified to put in your building envelope in a way that is really ensuring you're getting your bang for your buck and that your heat and cooling is literally not going out the window. So that's the basic pitch on those several pieces there. There's federal funding opportunities, there's competitive grants, there's your upfront quality assurance that exists with AGMT and NACT. I'm happy to answer questions if anybody has any. That's essentially, you know, the long and short of what I wanted to go over with you all. And again, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you today. It really is my pride.
Thank you, and nice meeting.
Yeah.
Full disclosure, I've spoken with Justin.
Yes.
On a number of occasions in advance of this meeting. Nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you too. I really appreciate it. And thank you. Thank you so
All
much.
these files are in the facilities drive and my stuff folder for tonight, so you can take a look, and there's actually some additional details and more comprehensive information in there as well.
Yeah, and I can get you, I'll get you the two on the NACT AGMT as well. Let's email those over.
Okay.
So thanks again.
Thank you.
Appreciate it all. Mr. Rolls.
Hi, everybody. My name is Michael Rolls. I'm the policy director with Climate Jobs Rhode Island. We're a coalition of labor groups like building trades, like teachers unions, and also environmental organizations like Nature Conservancy and Audubon Society, and also some community groups like United Way and Puerto Labrador and Tribal Action Project. We are focused on figuring out, not only on the policy side of how we decarbonize the economy and help the state meet the Act on Climate goals, but also working with municipalities and school districts to figure out, how to leverage opportunities to maximize, the financing opportunities to get good projects done, not only, to help build more energy efficient buildings, but also healthy buildings, and also making sure that they are as close to net zero as possible, as financially possible. We are, we've been talking to a bunch of state agencies, Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, Department of Education, the Office of Energy Resources, the Renewable Energy Fund, and we also have been tracking the federal funding opportunities, as Justin said. What we've done is we have a color version of this. I just finished this week. This is not on the digital file, but I can pass this around. We don't have enough copies, but I can follow up and send a digital file as well. So this is the beta version, by the way. So you're all going to be my guinea pigs because you're seeing this. You're the first ones that are seeing this. We have a panel tomorrow with Senator Sheldon Whitehouse for North Kingstown, and it'll be the second time we use this. But nonetheless, there are a lot of opportunities where school districts can leverage funding from agencies like the Infrastructure Bank, the Office of Energy Resources, the Renewable Energy Fund, and obviously there's the tax incentives through the Inflation Reduction Act, as Justin said, and also some grants to the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. Nonetheless, we're here as a resource. I don't want to get too far into the details. I think the programs laid out there speak for themselves. What we want to do is support, entities that are able to maximize, those funding opportunities and making sure that you're able to get the bang for your buck. We've been working with our national partners, the Climate Jobs National Resource Center, to do some scenario modeling. For example, with North Kingstown tomorrow, they'll find out exactly what the savings are if they were able to make every school net zero, and the payback and how many years it is, and what the payback on the loan and what the terms are and all those other things if they use the Inflation Reduction Act incentive. So we're staying on top of it. The Department of Treasury is going to be rolling out guidance for that tax program for direct pay for non-taxable entities. I keep saying the tax incentives, but obviously as a non-taxable entity, it's complicated. The great thing the Inflation Reduction Act did was that it expanded the investment tax credit so that public entities can take advantage of it and make sure that they're able to get 30% payback if they're using high labor standards on the costs, and 40% if they're using domestic content. 50% if you're in energy community, but I don't know if there's any school buildings located in Westerly that are located in what the treasurer is calling an energy community. Anyway, I did want to caution though, the infrastructure bank programs are notoriously not reimbursable with housing aid from the Department of Education, but there are examples where other school districts have successfully leveraged the efficient buildings fund under the infrastructure bank. East Providence High School was a great example where they were able to maximize the efficient buildings fund for their project for East Providence High School. Anyway, I'm happy to take any questions. Here as a resource.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
Can you just rewind like 30 seconds? You mentioned some of these initiatives being incompatible with ride reimbursement. Can you expand that, what you're discussing?
So when the efficient buildings fund, this is specifically the efficient buildings fund with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank, when that was created about 8 years ago, the way the enabling statute was written is that it is not reimbursable, and it's for a variety of reasons. RIDE is not able to reimburse any funds that you leverage through the efficient buildings funds. And it's a whole complicated thing that I'm not going to get into tonight. But nonetheless, other school districts have been using it, but I did want to caution that it is not reimbursable with housing aid. There are ways that you can do it so that you do get the good things that come from the efficient buildings funds and make sure that you're getting the bang for your buck and you're saving money on entry costs over time. But I did want to caution that in advance.
Any questions for Michael?
And Justin, I'll just add, again, we're here as a resource for you, both myself, Mr. Mancini, Michael, our colleague Erica Hammond here, who's also with Climate Jobs Rhode Island. So just follow-up questions, and you don't think of them now, you think of them later. Just send us an email, text, or call.
Okay,
Happy to answer.
great. Thank you, Justin.
Thank you, sir.
And I can send out that in a digital file as well as follow up.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mike.
Thank you.
Anything else regarding this topic? Are we waiting for the senator, or were they
I don't
going to
think
be
so.
here for
She
this?
was just gonna support her team, so. She just-
Who's not parking here?
Yes, please.
Hey, Joe, Deb, anything you want to add to this discussion that you haven't already?
No, these are all good programs that we would encourage us to look into. We are utilizing the 170D, 179D, and Newport, for example. The IRA, we're also looking into now on several funds. They're all great additional funding resources that are available right now. And with the, budget constraints right now and the market conditions, it's always good to look at other funding sources.
Who would be looking into that, Joe? Would it be the building committee that's going to raise questions?
Yeah, so what we've done in the past is we form a smaller working group that would meet with individual entities that might, whether it's infrastructure bank or anybody else. And then they would bring them back to the building committee for discussion, and if there's further need for them to come in and do presentations or talk about it, we would do that.
It makes perfect sense to incorporate it.
Logistically challenging.
Yes.
I'm working on a project in Madison, Connecticut, where we are incorporating geothermal well field, and a portion of that is being funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, or at least that's at least part of the cost model. We're getting like $2 million as part of that, which is interesting. I think we can back up when just want to make sure that I don't want to skip. Oh, John just texted me that she is here. So maybe we can just park it here for a second.
I guess we'll wait, the community, workforce agreement or PLA. Just to be clear, that agreement would not be signed with the town of Westerly. That is an agreement that's signed with the construction, manager and with the building trades.
Okay.
So it's not an agreement that the town enters into.
And would it be the construction manager as in you or would it GC?
The GC or the construction manager, right? Because we're looking at two different delivery
Yeah.
methods here.
But it's something in terms of an RP that we could put some framework around. correct?
Yes, yeah.
We're just on the precipice of going in a drastically different direction with our agenda, so I want to make sure that we're being respectful to the senator. And John just mentioned that she's,
I think she's here. I think I heard him say, I think he went out to get her.
Yeah, it's crossing the water.
Right. She maybe.
she's parking the other side.
Both of them.
Yes. While we are waiting, maybe this is dangerous. I think the high school field trip project is a quick update. Okay, you just, while we're waiting, you just want to give an update on the school committee's discussions?
Yes, this we met earlier today, and they voted to direct the administration to go and get the contract for the turf field, to review it, and then it will be submitted to the school committee for approval.
So I
Do we
think
figure out the percent reimbursable?
Well, yes, we present the reimbursable is going to be up to 35%.
We got that from Ryan.
we're not, it's
Yeah.
just like any building project, you're not going to get that as a written stipulation until you go through the review process.
Right.
And then they have a determination.
So where did we get the 35% number?
So.
That's what we expect. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I've had discussions on your behalf.
Mhm.
And we've identified a portion of the 1.4 million approximate that can be potentially reimbursed up to 35%. And that has to do with anything outside of the actual synthetic material. And we're working with RIDE to get a better determination on that. And there may be an additional 5% that we can get if there's some health and safety concerns on that field, which we all believe there is at this point. So it might potentially be up to 40% at this point, but there's no guarantee, there's no time frame right now. We're working at the same time as we're getting through this process. But RIDE has committed to continue to work with us and get this resolved as soon as possible.
So you don't get a number until you're done or until you have a,
We'll have a number, a better idea of the number as we go through the process. Right now, we've just been talking verbally.
Right.
We need to sit with them, show them the drawing, show them the breakdown of the budget. And show them some of our needs, whether it's the accessibility, that is gonna be improved there. Drainage is gonna be improved and health and safety is gonna be improved there as well.
Sort of door shuts. I just want to make sure that line is all in there.
Yeah, I had that discussion today, but I think it should be. Fantastic.
Welcome.
hello.
Hi, how are you? So I'm sure John filled you in on the way over here. We just went through Greg, Justin, and Michael giving a presentation on a number of the wonderful things that Build RI, Painters and Allied Trades, and Climate Jobs RI can afford or bring to the table. So we wanted to keep this agenda item open out of respect for your time,
Okay.
to see if there was anything that you wanted to add to that discussion.
Okay, so I don't necessarily know what's covered, so I came back from another event, so, I think the main thing is just, it's an opportunity, since we're doing renovations and new construction anyway, to try to do things right and, build in some energy efficiency and save costs down the road. And also maybe build in some more green technology and take advantage of the federal funding that's available right now, so. That's the reason why I brought it to the school committee and then, President John and then, the larger subcommittee.
Great.
I apologize, I didn't introduce the Senator Victoria Gill for those.
Yeah.
Is everybody aware?
You have me laughing the building, because I'm a little out of breath.
Welcome. Thank you for being, are there any questions for the senator from the subcommittee? I'm sorry, we're gonna get you in here and then get you out of here.
Yeah, no, I can debrief with the folks here and, I think everyone knows how to reach me if you have any other questions.
Great.
How is funding in the state house? Is it gonna be supportive for Westerly?
In terms of the school funding formula, I think we're still working on it. I think that the boost to multilingual learners depends how many that you have. So there'll be boost in funding for those. In terms of school construction, in the past, there's been a boost for the state share if you employ the minority business enterprises in part of the school construction. So we're trying to preserve that and, keep that going. I think it's a 5% bonus in the state share for school construction. Yeah, and then, I think that's all I know right now for school construction, but if you have any feedback or, want certain things or bills to be pushed, let me know.
Thank you,
Yeah.
that's very positive.
Can we draft a couple up?
Yes, we're gonna.
It also moved to extend for 6 months, there seems to be a traction.
Yep.
As well as increasing bonuses for energy efficiency.
Yep.
So,
I can tell you, I know the school committee in Westerly voted to move that recommendation to extend the incentive reimbursements along. I can tell you from my experience, the pandemic definitely delayed our project moving forward.
Yeah.
These guys, these guys have told me to tell this story a number of times already, but I was on the radio on WBLQ on Friday, March 13th, 2020, saying, yes, absolutely, we're gonna have our public forum tomorrow on Saturday, March 14th. And later that day, we all know what happened. All the schools went into the 2 weeks to flatten the curve, and throughout this committee's work, so we were ready to move the public engagement portion of the project along. When we ultimately regained our footing later in summer, there was understandable concern about what the fiscal impact of the pandemic would mean to our local budget. So we really didn't move anything forward we were at least a year behind in moving anything forward. So to me, from my standpoint, it makes absolute 100% sense to extend those incentive reimbursements, provided that the funding remains there for them.
Okay, I totally understand the costs are going up enormously since the pandemic.
Okay, anything else? Any other questions?
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, well, thank you guys, and thanks for all your presentation.
Take care. Talk soon. Take care. Talk soon.
I know, Mike.
Thanks, John. Thanks, John.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.
Appreciate the time.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is Orange Project Manager update. So, I had distributed Down's agenda. I think.
It's up there. There you go. Okay.
So embedded in your update is the more or less our design team's critical items to move through. So
Absolutely, and tonight is ESPP Studios night to update us, and I'm gonna hand it over. Okay.
You want a little bit about what you did today?
Yeah, I will
Okay, go ahead.
talk about it while they're up there, but today we met with Audrey at State Street, and she walked us through the school, but thank you so much, Audrey. It was a very enlightening visit, and we learned a lot about how your school functions, and Drew over here, put some great notes. And then immediately thereafter, we met with the fire chief and Mr. Mackey, and talked about the school's location, wetlands, and access by fire trucks around the backside. Something we're going to be very flexible, which is great. So we're going to keep them on the loop as we move forward with design. And then we moved to meeting with the elementary principals. And we had both groups together collaborating, and it was a fantastic meeting. We went from 3 to, I had to cut out 4:30, 3 to 5. And there was some great discussion going on there. So I'm sure you can update everyone on that. And so we're moving, they had great.
So I'll elaborate just a little bit. So we met with Ride M on May 17th. Our civil engineer, SLR, had sent info ahead to the folks there, and then they presented the information from walking the site again to investigate the wetlands. So we've got about a 1 acre wetland on the 10 acre site for State Street. They call it a mixed class woodland wetland. No vernal pool indicators. That's a good thing. You don't want a vernal pool. There was some discussion about what the buffer zone would be. And they kind of settled on, they think that it's a 50-foot setback buffer zone. So you want to generally avoid undisturbed vegetated areas. But if we do need to make improvements, site the building, site the, the access or the fire access around the building in that buffer zone, we want to M&M, we want to minimize and mitigate, and we would need a variance. So we talked about the variance schedule. It should be able to be worked into our overall schedule without impacting it. We'll need to get documents on the civil and site work up to a design development level to submit. They'll take 45 to 60 days for their initial review, get us comments, and then another 30 to 40 for the final approval. So we'll
And that
come
would be
back.
a variance from the DEM, not from the town, right?
Correct, from the DEM, yep. So we want to pretty soon get in there and get geotech samples and maybe get soil samples and percolation tests done at the same time. And as Deb said today, we met with Fire Chief John Mackey. When I reviewed the site plan with him, he said everyone knows that has been a wetland area. So I don't know what he knows, but apparently he says everyone in the area has known that that's been wet. But he was really great, as Deb said. He doesn't think he needs a road around the whole school, because I think that was the issue if we are going right up against the wetland, that getting a road kind of around that very north end would be problematic. So he was real appreciative that we came to him this early in the process. So we want to keep him in the loop as we move forward. And yes, DBDW and we met with the 3 principals. We went kind of at a high level first to review that learning community model that came out of the visioning a year and a half ago. And then kind of got into the weeds to confirm sizes of program spaces. The tour was really helpful to really see how the delivery of the curriculum is, especially the special education and services needs for the students. I think we need some time to digest and shake out the program. From the state school side, we're trying to cut about 4,000 square feet out of the program. So I think we have some ideas about how we'll do that. Next step then would be to tour the Eden Park School, because I think it would be really helpful for the principals and maybe any other teaching staff that might want to tag along to see how that model works and to what extent we're going to
realize that at State Street as well as perhaps with some interventions at Springbrook and Dunn's Corner. And then we'll want to meet with Joe DeSilva at Ride again to kind of review that program and get a blessing on that moving forward. And I'll turn that to Ashley if you've got anything else to add.
Yeah, I didn't know I was going right now.
Let's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stay on here.
Okay, question.
so any questions for Julia? I'd be interested in your take on the meeting that you held
Yeah, it was
today.
great. It was great to walk the site. Felt like they could hear what works well for us, what we like, how we collaborate, how we partner, how we instruct. But then also have a vision of, where we're going. So we don't know that vision yet, because then we got into the nitty gritty of space and size and what works. And we talked about how teachers need to collaborate and work collectively together, but we also don't want them in silos because we want them to be part of the school community and have a staff room where we can come together and share a luncheon or whatever, but then go back to our collaborative workspace. And so it was really good dialogue, I think, what might work.
You're gonna be drafting before you know it.
Oh.
Can I just ask you to elaborate about the 4,000 feet, I think, that you're cutting from the special ed space? Or
No,
what you
not
were talking about?
special
I'm sorry, I thought you said the special ed spaces, maybe I misheard.
Oh, sorry, 4,000 square feet overall from the total State Street Schools
So what we
program.
have now? Okay.
No, what was developed a year and a half ago in the program. So at that time, a schematic design was done, and it was about 4,000 square feet larger than what RIDE will reimburse you for. So
Okay.
you don't want to be over what they'll reimburse you for, because then it's all on you to fund that overage. So we're trying to get the program, down to the size that RIDE will reimburse, or even a bit smaller because of budget. And obviously, we also want to be efficient with the space. So really understanding the program. And that's, I think we achieved that today, but we'll shake it out and feed it back again in another iteration and meet with the principals again.
And how about the teachers?
Yes, I think obviously we should have a teacher forum maybe at the next round.
Right.
Yeah.
We get some nitty gritty finalized and go to the next step and say, okay, how does this look? What tweaks can we make? I think it was high level today.
Yep.
We get more detail.
And not only teachers, but probably kind of staff and
Facilities,
facilities.
eventually, because you saw how many questions there were in that one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You had to say, were any questions? A little hand it right up. What's it gonna look like?
I have a question. Well, can I add one more thing on the 4,000 square foot delta, that, if I remember correctly, that's not new information. That was at stage 2, actually.
So I wasn't in the stage two, so
Okay.
that's probably
Yeah,
why
okay.
that's why.
I believe it said that one of the goals of the next round of as soon as the project moves to stage 3, there is a square footage reduction to have this design change would have to reconcile.
Right, and to add to that, I think it's maybe explained this previously, is that the JCJ team, a previous team, got their cost estimate very late, like the day before the submission. We made a decision at that time to submit it with that, not knowing that it had not been fully reconciled. And during that time period that Ryan was reviewing and we knew that they were going to come back with comments, we worked on reconciling that. So when they came back and said, hey, your budget is this, we actually put a statement in our stage 2 that said, we know we're over and we're working on it. And we responded in that response to Ryan saying that we are going to work toward reducing square footage and getting the cost down.
So it's, sorry, Chris, I know it's. So I think Julia's explanation is, the way that the formula is, it's not a 4,000 square foot reduction from your current building. It's what we're allowed to build and get the full reimbursement for. So there are creative ways to stay within the square foot per student calculation. And that's part of the work that is in front of us.
With a reduction of 4,000 square foot and with the elimination of having a road around the new school building, does that mean there'll be less of an impact during construction on the existing State Street School, or is that still?
Still to be determined, right? We kind of know the parameters now. We know where the wetlands, we know we have a 50-foot buffer zone. We can go into the buffer zone if we, do the variance process. We can also alter the shape of the wetland if you like swap space. If we come into it here, we can make wetland there, but that gets into costs as well. So we got to be careful with that as well. So, we'll see what we can do,
Okay.
to fit the building between the existing school and that kind of wetland buffer zone. And
Audrey needs a place for a kid, so.
I know, I can see that.
So, but to your point, there was in the current plan, schematic design that we have in the state too, it did show a roadway back there because we wanted the right access. So you would assume there must be some buffer there. There, hopefully we will determine that we can move the building back or forward or whatever, and we don't need that access road.
Any other questions for Julia?
Okay. Well, earlier this week, we met with the DPW and John Lacey and representatives from the Department of Public Works and PAR to discuss the future plans, I guess you'd say, for Plateau Road. Tell everybody in on that.
Yeah, so, that meeting was something that we requested specifically to talk about Dunn's Corner, the, stormwater management at Plateau Road behind the parking tray that's along the road itself. On the stage 2 plans, it was identified as a wetland. We wanted to really get an understanding of that. And what came out of that meeting was that if we could get any more documentation from the town, we will gladly take that documentation, but the documentation we have now from the 90s drawings for the Dunn's Corner site basically allows us to assume that it is a existing stormwater system that's been maintained by the town and is not a wetland. And so we're going to approach that way towards DEM, and hopefully they will accept it that way. It's a change in regulation. I don't understand the specifics behind it, but there's a recent change in regulation that determined that we had to make that determination. So
We can't apply the same.
I know.
Sorry, Ash.
So, no, we've also, at the last committee meeting, we did talk about, I did not bring an update on the handicap lift, but I will talk to you briefly about it. We have looked at the handicap lift in schematic level, and it does work in that closet that the gentleman here earlier is working on. We still have to do we had to meet with the principals to understand a lot of the space planning before we could really determine where his storage area could be relocated to. So that's why I haven't brought this before you yet. That whole part.
About how big is that storage closet?
57 square feet, I believe. It's a small closet. It's not much at all. There's an adjacent room that I need to find out what and I'll talk to the principal about this tomorrow. I wish I had asked him earlier. Specifically what that room is used for, because I saw some gym equipment in there already. And if it's already being used for storage of floor hockey goals or something like that, it might be used as a new gym storage space. We're understated, right?
We're on the stage.
We're on the stage.
Whatever the solution, I think it's critical that we maintain storage within the gymnasium.
Yeah.
Proper, so that we don't, what we heard tonight is that something's being taken away from a faculty member. We want to make sure that we're not.
And that is one thing that we in the same line, that's one overlying thing that we heard from the meetings with the principals, is that a lot of the discussions on programs and spaces that we talked about today, the more and more we realize that the stage 2 documents didn't address certain things that are latently exist in the schools right now. So what we have to do is we have to kind of take a step backwards right now. So another reason we're not presenting anything tonight is because we need to take the information we heard today, which is all valuable information, and then see if we can adapt that to incorporate a stage 2 design as well as all the existing programs. So, one thing that I want to put to the committee right now is that we're on track for June 9th for schematic design. We're thinking that might have to slide a week in order to incorporate this new information, where we'll be able to report more at the next meeting, which I believe is the 14th, I believe, something around that time. The next, whatever the next committee meeting is, we'll report to you on that.
So we will meet the 14th and the 28th.
Yeah, so we'll have an update for you on the 14th, which will include the schematic design package at that point.
Right, we're second and fourth Wednesdays?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so that's 3 weeks from today.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Because we're not meeting before that.
It's okay for, it's okay for presenting to you guys. I will know more as I put pencil to paper in the next couple of days to figure out how complex the Tetris problem is of getting all the people to fit all the places.
I like to consider it, remember those kids games where it's the tile game, where it's a puzzle, but there's only one empty piece and you have to
That's
move everything.
exactly what it's turning out to be. There's definitely some program that was deleted in the stage 2 that cannot be deleted, so we have to make sure we maintain it. So that's changing the concept a little bit.
So that day is Flag Day, I'll just note. Sorry, go ahead.
I just, when you said, or the stage, are you talking about building a closet on the stage?
We'll address, yeah, obviously, if there's gonna be storage, we're not gonna just leave it out in the open on the stage.
I just want to make sure that.
But I will look for acceptable locations and then bring that to the principal and then bring it to you guys.
Question. Is there a portable lift that could be incorporated?
They do make, I have seen them before, because I've looked into it, and, you know, if it is only for the stage and only in specific periods of time, they are probably durable enough for occasional use.
Still need a place to store it. That's,
Yeah, but if it folds up enough that you can get it out the door, then you can store it somewhere else in the building.
Right.
So that is not-
Yeah.
I mean, there's no one here from Dunn's Corners, but I know for us, the stage is used.
Right, and I said that today, when we're reducing square footage, get rid of the stage, we don't need it, we don't use it, and it doesn't become a jump
It
stage.
does, right?
So I think Dunn's Corners utilizes theirs because they have it. So I don't wanna
No,
go
no,
on
no, I know.
items all over it if that's what you're
Right.
looking for, but again, that's when you're looking to shrink space, I
Right.
hand stage.
Then you don't need a lift. Just saying.
Yeah.
Another one.
Right? I mean,
Yeah, we've typically seen, frankly, in buildings of this vintage, and you guys can probably back me up, you usually see old stages become alternative PE spaces, you know, if there's OT or PT, usually they're kind of auxiliary classroom spaces. But if it's, yeah, and frankly, usually not used that much.
we're gonna be calling both at Springbrook and at Dunn's, we're calling them platforms because they're not official stages. There's a code differentiation between the two. We don't wanna get into anything else, especially when we're gonna be sprinkling the building. We don't want to post cabinets and standpipes and everything else.
would it be expensive to remove it?
No,
I'm just thinking like
before doing the floor though, it's a really, we'd have to,
time.
it's a time thing. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about, I think last week, when we talked about something with the floor or whenever we were here. About, you know, PE possibly having to be outside or in the classrooms, if there's something that has to be done before the flooring goes in. It's just, that's a pretty decent amount of space if you could use it.
Yeah,
I think that's something that we can discuss in the planning, whether or not that's, then, you know, for your flooring replacement, you know, there may be a way to, if we ultimately remove the stage as part of a larger renovation, we may be able to differentiate the flooring material there so that while it is an alcove that can be used from the gym or, you know, an area that can be multi-purpose at that point, we can at least distinguish it with a finish type of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of the flooring, we had our pre-bid on Monday and had no attendance from, any contractors.
Vince reached out
yeah.
to 13 companies, general contractors and flooring companies.
Was it mandatory?
It was not mandatory. State does not like mandatory pre-bids.
So,
Um,
Yeah,
But there are companies it's on BigNet, and there are companies that have downloaded documents. But they may just have not come because it's something.
Well, maybe, see, Ashley, the way I would spin this is that your documents were so thorough.
that's the second suggestion. I will take it. It's so clear that there were no questions. So,
Well, Ashley is here tonight on his off night.
yeah,
Because he's asked the committee to consider an action item on his conceptual design narrative.
yeah.
He needs approval on to move forward.
I don't want to go through every item. I don't know if this was circulated with the package.
It was, and it's right after.
But if, do you have extra copies or?
I don't have any extra copies. I'm
But
sorry.
it will be up there.
It's basically what we're recommending in blue is the scope of work that we're going to price for schematic design. There's a couple items on here that I wanted to get your opinion on, specifically whether I have them in or out. One is the windows at Dunn's Corner. It was never in the stage 2, but it was on the capital improvement project. I don't know if we want to get a price for those. It's not really in the budget, but get a price on it, then we know what John would have to carry forward. Another one is the roofs at Springbrook, both the asphalt shingle roof and the flat roofs. Those were not in the project. Those are a couple years away from the end of their life cycle. So it's not something that we would normally have included in this scope, but we wanted to make sure. So I wanted to talk to, see if anybody had read the list and there's any comments. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll take the comments, the recommendations in blue, including a lot of alternates that we have, price everything up and then come back to you. We're finishing middle of June. Estimators 3 to 4 weeks, so it'd be right around July 4th, right after July 4th, we'd have pricing.
Just as far as the Springbrook roof, they can carve that out. We'll just handle it like we do. That's your funding and so don't worry about that.
Okay.
I mean, I'm usually in the opinion that we should at least get an understanding of what the value for all of these things are so that we can make a determination of what should be part of a capital project versus what should be within our scope of work. I mean, if there's I know it would be helpful to you to understand what you need to, relate to the cost estimator, but if there's a way that via narrative or.
We're doing a lot of narratives on this schematic
Yeah.
design. So a lot of this will be narrative approach.
Yeah.
So.
Okay.
The other thing I want to be careful of is not paying an estimator a whole bunch of money and just for the sake of on projects we know there's no chance we're gonna, because then we're, not that it's tons of money, but if we're wasting $5,000 here and there.
Well, we own 3 estimates. We own schematic design.
Okay, so it should be-
The estimator's already estimating.
All right, so it's not there for.
Be doing the narrative, I think that I would agree with the chairman, is that get the numbers, I mean, and then you can do what you want to do with it. You could add them as alternates or just have them as some historical data, so you have an idea of what the cost might be in the future.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the list. There's very few items that were not included. And one of the items we didn't include was a BMS system. Right now, there's no BMS system in either of the schools. That would involve reprogramming and rethermostating the whole school, getting, contact points for every unit in each building. So we thought it would be a good idea. It'd be a green initiative and all that kind of stuff, but it's definitely very intense work from a control standpoint.
So, but from, that's something that wouldn't be quantified in any document set. at this stage of the project, so it would be a conceptual, it would be based on the narrative, right? I mean, you'd assume that there would be X amount of points and.
We would basically say, here's a 49,000 square foot Dunn's Corner School. We want
You're
to be
gonna
an
cost
access,
per
and
foot.
right now it's electric heat. What is it gonna cost to? You know, the cost estimator will put a price to it.
Who's your cost estimator?
I know I keep saying this, but there's just on both of these, there's items where if we talked about really at any elementary school, all of the elementary schools, if we're not thinking that a stage is necessary, then we wouldn't at Springbrook Elementary need to replace the curtain.
Yeah, the curtains was
I
ripped
mean,
and
that
torn
seems
on that one. I
really
mean,
silly to me.
Could we get the price of removal? of the
That's what I think
stage?
we should do,
Could we
because
add
then you
that to
can
the
take
price?
things off of this.
Yeah, you could definitely do that instead.
The
Yeah.
handrails over here and the, platform.
I just want to caution you, because we're a new build and we're trying to save space. I was thinking that's something we just don't utilize. I caution going into spaces in existing Springbrook, maybe they use it, or
Well,
maybe
no,
it's not
ask
part of anywhere you're touching in the redesign. So I just don't know if you need to go there. If
Well, no,
that's
just
not
get
right.
the, if we're having a discussion, having a price.
Yeah.
That's all this is. That's the
Right.
price.
Not a decision,
Yeah.
but also a conversation with the principals there, because they may feel the same way you do.
We're gonna try to,
This is Dr. Story's point, but we should also consider what would be under those stages. If there is piping or mechanics under the stage.
And that, yeah, that's where we come out. That's what we know.
I think both
Right.
of them are fair. It's a good point. We did stick our head below the one at Dunn's Corner and it looked pretty empty. There's a couple storage racks in there, but that was about it.
No bones, anything.
No, no dead bodies.
We found Mark's hiding place.
Yeah.
So if I may. Sure. So actually, is there anything that you're not recommending? So Mike, if you scroll down, like, is there something that you want to talk about specifically that's been excluded?
Elevator cab upgrades that was on the capital improvement list.
See if we keep going, Mike. I'm just want to see if there's anything in those other categories.
Replacement of the emergency generator at Springbrook, for example. It seems, it's nearing the end of its life, but I think it's still running fine. And so there's no reason to, we're replacing the one at Dunn's. So I just don't know if there's any parity there.
And inspected.
Yeah.
Doing load tests soon, so maybe I'll have a
Okay.
different story for you next.
At Dunn's there, the only reason we included VRF cooling is because at Springbrook, we're adding some VRF cooling. We don't know if there wants to be some parity here at Dunn's Corner, or not. Things like, that's, we start chasing the tail at that point of like, where do we stop with the parity?
Yeah, that's the risk in existing buildings is chasing the kind of, well, while we're here, while we're doing the renovations, this, we should do X, Y, and Z. I think having an understanding about what the cost is would be helpful. Again, it's likely going to be a cost per square foot that the cost estimator is going to apply at SD. I would still be in favor of at least understanding what that cost is.
Okay. We can do that. We can, it's just narratives, just another paragraph or two in narrative for the different alternatives. This is why we wanted.
You're gonna add this removal of the stage.
I will add a alternate for removal of the stage and an extension of the flooring into that area and see where it comes back at.
Great.
No, the demolition number and a flooring number.
Okay. Any other questions for Ashley? Yes. So Flag Day, we'll see you again.
Yeah, definitely.
So was,
Justin, do we need
We have to
to
make
take a vote on this?
I don't- I
No?
think
Do you
that's
need a
how
vote? Do you need a vote?
Okay. sounds good.
Okay, anything else? Deb, Joe?
Just going forward, next week, we're going to be meeting with food management in both schools. An idea on that process and requirements for the kitchens. And, we have bids due on June 9th for the flooring.
Yes.
So. Portfolio.
Maybe we should have grabbed those guys on their way out.
I know, I thought the same thing.
Hey, if we're gonna be marshaling some of these things, maybe we can get a little help here. Yeah.
We'll see how that goes. Report on June 14th.
Okay, excellent.
And just a reminder with the kitchens about what we talked about last meeting about some of the equipment that is really new. There could be some savings there as well.
Yeah, our, once we have the initial meeting, I'm sure our consultant, Crabtree McGrath, would want to come out and evaluate the kitchen and identify that any equipment that can be reused.
I think part of that also, that discussion also is, I think, just understanding what the district's posture is on warewashing reusable trays versus disposable trays. I don't know where we are.
Washing trees.
Washing
Per
trees.
the new initiative.
Right. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is capital projects update.
I'm good, Justin.
You're good.
Take my spot.
Okay, item number 10, high school field turf project. Mike gave a update while we were kind of in between agenda items. So the school committee took an action earlier today to request a proposed contract from the turf field in order for evaluation by the OPM as well as the school committee. In the meantime, Joe, you can just repeat what you had said earlier about having met with Ryan.
We have met with Ryan. We're working on the review of the documents and the cost estimate to determine what portion of it will be reimbursable. The one part that we know that will not be reimbursable is the actual synthetic material. And we're looking to potentially get reimbursed on the remaining portion.
Do we have a breakdown of their bid of what's going to what yet?
We have a little bit more of a breakdown.
Okay.
Yeah.
We talked about changing the field, the turf field, not having the envelope. Is that already been decided, or does the building committee have it?
My understanding, based on, I believe a conversation I had at the time that it looked like the building committee was going to be taking this up, is that the district would rather have a W or not say a bulldog emblem, because from the vantage point that you're standing, likely on the field, you have a limited grasp of what that actually looks like.
It was Chris's experience, right?
Is that
Yeah.
your?
Yeah, we have the. Yeah, we got it.
Oh, yeah.
What's that?
Replacing it or patching.
Yeah, if you have to patch something, take the nose out, bulldog.
Yeah.
So,
I guess the distinction is that the W for the home team is the M for the away team, but.
There you go.
W for window.
Right.
So you feel right at home.
That was your question, right?
Yes, we're not going out to bid for the
No.
one with the envelope on it, the bulldog.
We're not gonna bid it off, right?
Not yet.
We're just,
It's a bid off of
it's the
purchasing cooperative type.
This is kind of it or not.
Yeah.
Binary.
So is it more urgent than we tell them?
I think it's already part of their.
Whatever, we gotta see what it was in the design, but I don't recall.
The picture had bulldogs and infields and end zones rather, and the center was a bulldog.
So the end zones would be extra cost that, we determined that wasn't quite necessary. What the school committee was talking about most recently was basically just the install with the carpet, with the W, and the sleeves for the safety.
And the bond, right?
Well, so I was just gonna go there. So Dan has brought up the issue of the bond a couple of times, and I agree with his thinking on that. Joe, we had a brief conversation in the hallway about that. I would expect that that wouldn't be reimbursable at all, correct, Joe?
It might be,
Really?
yeah. The portion of the reimbursable portion, so let's say it's 1.4 million, we get reimbursed, let's use round numbers, 800,000, whatever that bond portion on that 800, you would say should be reimbursable as well.
Yeah, because the bond's gonna be a percent of whatever the total.
Correct.
But we have that number too, right, in the proposal,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
20 grand maybe?
It's just with all the eyes on this program, especially
20,000 even.
if something goes sideways, if we have to come up with another 500,000, it's
Oh, absolutely. No, I agree.
good point.
Yeah, I couldn't find the one that had,
I just recall. it was on-
Yeah. I did find the bond. The bond is exactly $20,000. That's the one it is.
So the committee, the school committee is expecting from us, from this process, that that Field Turf generates a contract that is reviewed by, Bill Nardone, that is reviewed by Joe, that is reviewed by the building subcommittee, and potentially, vote to award next Wednesday night. The issue of where that 20 grand would come from hasn't been discussed, hasn't figured in. They're thinking of the install plus the sleeves. So we would have to have that conversation with them as well. This group doesn't meet next week, does it?
No. We could schedule a special meeting if
The only other thing that we had said we were gonna do was that extra engineering to see if there was ledge. Because their contract specifically excludes ledge. And if they hit ledge, this whole thing's gonna like double in price.
Well, have you reviewed how far down we're going excavating there?
No. But
Does
that's
anybody
why
know
there
how
was,
far down?
that's why there was money set aside for
Okay.
the engineer. I don't.
Because you weren't doing it.
Are there any plans that show where the drainage lines?
I mean, we're replacing the drainage lines in kind, I believe.
So that would be only
What's the
And then a foot or so.
If we're not,
finished.
if we're just using the same stuff,
What's that?
what's the $900,000 of site work? If we're just using all the same site. You have to dig it all out.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what I'm saying is that I don't know if we're going down 6 inches, 12 inches.
Yeah, I don't know
18
either.
inches.
That's, I just want to make sure we don't have a surprise.
Yeah, based on my discussion with Chris from Field Turf the other day, to review his cost. It sounded like they did some investigation. You know, we don't know what we don't know, right? So you start digging there, but they were pretty confident that they weren't gonna hit anything. Maybe a large boulder, but.
Were they confident enough to take out that exclusion in their proposal?
Probably.
Yeah, that's what I would
The ledge? I mean, yeah, it's there for a reason. That's what makes me nervous.
They don't know what they don't know, but,
Yeah.
and a lot of it was bringing in new material, to support the synthetic. And as well as level the field, they can be accessible, solve the drainage issues there, those kind of things.
We could do, I just wanted, because that was the discussion, was originally we were gonna do that, use that engineering way to do that.
Do they know what the field was before it was the field? Was it developed property or just undeveloped? I mean, it was
Scrapyard.
Turkey farm, Bo's turkey farm.
that was 100 years ago.
That's true. Those turkeys went down to Bow Street. Turkeys went to the wedding. That's history. Could be.
The budget we put together before the field, before we decided to do the field. So is there money for maintenance of our current field in there?
That's on the town side.
On the top side,
Yes.
okay.
Yes, that's.
So. Dan, you want to do borings?
I don't know, I know we had 20,000 in the budget for testing that we were gonna do, that we haven't done yet.
Like 6-foot poles or
And-
something, just to.
Well,
Let's go.
I just know that they specifically excluded ledges. And I also know, and so this is, my father was like,
telling me stories about it afterward. I guess when they installed East Ave, the contractor went bankrupt because they hit ledge and they had to call the bond. And East Ave isn't that far away from here. So, and now,
They
I don't know
were
how
burying
close.
slabs under old cuttings.
Yeah, well, so I hear that story and then I hear we're doing this work right up the street and have a contract that excludes ledge. I just want to make sure that we don't end up on the hook for something we didn't know about. That's all. And I don't know how to do the engineering, to be honest.
They could do probes, right?
Yeah.
Chris.
Yeah, you don't need to do sample boring, you just do probe.
And maybe they
What's
did
that
do
gonna
probes
be,
and
day?
Or if they're confident, move it over to the
Look
other
at
one,
one a day, right?
right? If they're that confident,
No. I think so.
take it off your, we
You
won't
just
not
wanna-
do this.
Drive to refusal or what, right?
10 probes across the field.
They could even tell, I would imagine they could even tell you what the profile depth is. So you don't have to probe to that plus.
I just want to make sure this thing works and we don't get an idea. I wanted to go smooth.
Yeah.
Because we're behind it now.
When you put in, when you did the rerouting for the electrical runs, did you run into any rock
Yeah, some boulders here and there.
boulders, but nothing that you needed to get a
Well,
hold
remember,
of?
they went out across Justin and came down, so they were only in the long jump portion. So, and by the scoreboard, so they weren't in the field a lot, they went out and.
And when we redid the track, did that involve any sub-slab or subsurface? Work? Was anybody here when we redid the track?
Just how was it around? I don't remember. It was 900,000.
Yeah. Eight grand surplus.
That's what I remember.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely.
I mean, at this point, I guess what would be the fastest way that we could get that information? And what is it going to change, for the prices that we have right now?
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I can do is go back to Chris Hulk and just ask him what he did.
Yeah, because he might have already done this
Right.
and we're
And if we ask him, what else can you do to give us a little bit more information and put us a little bit more at ease? I could have that conversation with him at least.
Yeah, because even if he just says, hey, I'm 99.9% sure that's just in our standard contract.
Yeah.
It's different than, yeah, we just weren't sure, so we threw it in there, you know?
Yeah,
As I remember the presentation, I think you pretty much said that, it's in all the contracts because of the area.
Right, but that's the problem,
Yeah.
right there. That's
I
the
know.
problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. You know, the challenge is that, you can take 10 probes at the both end
And we miss
zone,
it.
center field, the center line, and then there may be a mound. I guess I think if we can just validate how far down we're going below the surface. I'd be more concerned if we were rerouting new drainage lines underneath there, not reutilizing the existing ones, but it's worth asking the question and understand where they are on this.
I don't think that should hold it up. And
I should really get a quick answer from him. I think in some areas actually they're raising the grade, so we're not going down as far, so I think that, so hopefully we get a good quick response.
Anybody watch Oak Island? Yeah, it's really that island apart, and they're not hitting targets, and they have high-end technology, so. This never be a sure thing, and then we'll never pull that exclusion.
Yeah.
So,
It'd be crazy.
so have they found anything on Oak Island yet? Other than
Not what they're looking for.
Do you guys know what this is?
It's for the very.
It's
could we get in the bond? That if it, you know,
I don't know, you're the legal guy, man, I would not sign off on it.
Yeah, that's the same non-performance bond. They're not gonna put.
Never way.
Gotta find a surety that will be willing to.
Main Street American might do it.
Yeah, for 20 grand.
I'm just looking at the typical.
Yeah, maybe like 6% of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking at the details too.
As built, so I get back.
Looks like
3% target, actual
6
depth.
inches maybe, the most.
Yeah, I'm looking at the section profiles. There's the carpet, and then there's 2 inches of dynamic stone base top layer. 6 inches of dynamic stone base or clean crushed or broken number S7 or 57 Gs. Just said.
It's really not like 8 inches.
No, it's got-
57 stone bottom layer, then a geotextile fabric, and then imported sub-base material as required to be grade. So that says varies, but that is more or less compacted material. That's on top of the compacted material. It's scaled at about 4 inches. So beneath the carpet, it looks like we have about 10 inches of material.
But they must have drainage lines under that.
Yeah.
That would have a deeper profile.
So collector pipe and infiltration pipe section.
There a
It's
grid of some sort?
half a foot cover minimum. So it's about another 12 inches below that.
Okay. It's not a lot of risk.
I'll trust the engineer.
Yeah. Did we have a bet on the test hole?
Yeah, yeah, we said it out there.
Yep.
Me and Joe was saying,
Yes, I said.
No,
no.
I hope not.
Say I didn't say it.
No, it's an absolutely valid point, Dave.
well, with our metal probing rods.
Correct.
Yeah.
We do it ourselves.
Maybe get a job.
There you go.
Well, we can still use them.
That's a,
I was gonna say,
that's a
don't-
callback to
don't
an
go there,
earlier
Justin.
meeting.
Yes, well, yeah, right.
The stone trench detail says 2 foot minimum, 3.5 inch maximum for the collector.
So all told, it's like 4 feet, 5 feet.
Yeah, less than that.
Radar.
Okay. I don't think there's no necessary action item, but I guess the question is, does the school committee need the building subcommittee to meet prior to the school committee meeting next Wednesday?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's the impression they wanted us to look at first.
What time does that mean?
5, I don't know.
When's the bid?
I won't be there.
I may not, I'm not gonna be able to be there next Wednesday. What Tuesday?
Actually, it's June 7th. The next school committee meeting?
Yeah, right. There isn't one for the 31st. I was assuming they would be one. So they would have to call the meeting for the next Wednesday.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care, guys. Thought they could get out of here quick. I have Tuesday available.
Which Tuesday, the
30th.
30th?
I do too.
Yep. But it needs to be at like 6. I don't have it. Actually, it needs to be, shit.
We've been doing so well.
I have a meeting in Cheshire, Connecticut until 5. So I can be here 6:30.
Yeah.
But I think what we'd like to do is make sure that we get in all the information in advance. So we show up, take an action, and get in, get out of here.
When do you think the information is going to be available? Is that Monday is Memorial Day?
I'm not even sure that well,
You
I
gotta
think we have,
notice it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whatever you're doing.
well. This is where our rule of not having virtual meetings is against us.
So the school committee meets next Wednesday.
No, they don't. So I was gonna say, I was thinking they met every other week, so.
We can wait till the following.
So can we do it the following week, the 7th, prior to the school committee meeting? And that will help any lead time in,
Yep.
yeah, okay.
That's June 8th, but I think it is.
If it, I don't, that may not be a meeting that you guys need to be at.
And I would be surprised if we didn't have the contract in hand by the end of this week. And I could just forward it straight away.
Okay. All right, so we're gonna put a meeting on the agenda. Are you guys sure you're at 5, not 6? Is it done?
It's typically 5 o'clock.
Yeah.
Executive.
We sometimes have executive session.
Bankers.
So potentially we could,
Meet 4:30.
It's gotta be at 4:30, yeah.
yeah, and maybe at the town hall.
I don't think we need I don't think, we're gonna have to fight to make a quorum, I think, because, does anybody knowingly now have a conflict with 4:30 on Wednesday, the 7th at Town Hall for a meeting? I know that there's work, et cetera.
I'll have to move around meetings, but I can do that.
Well, I'll probe the subcommittee to see what we have for a quorum. I mean, if we need to run a little lean for that meeting, we certainly can. Okay, anything else on that item? So we're kind of covering next steps with some of this. So we'll meet on the 7th, 14th, and 28th in June. As we're starting to get into the summer months, I think would probably be beneficial to send out a survey monkey for our normal days, just because we're going to be getting into summer vacation time to understand when people are in, when people are out, or away. So look for that from me, but I would assume that we would continue to meet on the 2nd and 4th Wednesdays of the month for June, July, and August. That's okay with everyone. Okay. Anything else regarding next steps? Anything that you guys want to see? Anything that we missed? No? Okay.
Glad the physical education instructor came in.
I would say in general, I think I need to follow up with Mr. Trace, because I didn't mean to be as I'll be honest with you, if a faculty member is feeling that they need to fight over a 56 square foot storage space and needs to come to the building committee to fight for it, then we're doing something wrong in the communication.
Well, then we are,
Okay.
because, right?
Well, to my knowledge, we haven't made the decision to remove
Well,
that.
no, but from his point of view, what he's heard and been told, that's where he was at. You know what I mean?
Who told us? Principal.
I don't wanna,
One thing we had talked about was the community shreds and things like that.
yeah, we
And I
did.
just want to make sure those
We
are
did.
still, we haven't really mentioned those or anything, and maybe. So I just think we did.
They were all in the proposals. And the teacher ones too, that's why we have to keep everybody in the loop, or that's gonna start happening. I heard this, we have to just keep everybody in the loop so it doesn't happen that way.
Yeah.
Because teachers are gonna get worried, when they think they're losing something.
And the fact that he came in here is a lot better than just talking to a
Right.
bunch of other teachers about it.
Right, it's true.
So let's talk about, it does bring up a good point about community engagement and presentations. I think we need to get a little further along. And I also think that historically, you do not give presentations over the summertime. because nobody's checked in. And usually when the start of school happens, everybody is then replugged into their community, right? Everybody kind of goes on whatever their summer schedule is. So I think moving a little bit along with TSKP and DBVW, I think let's talk about some potential dates for a public forum presentation for September, once the school starts back up.
It wouldn't hurt though to have some kind of communication go out maybe to faculty and staff or even to the community that is coming. That will be, I don't know, maybe not, but.
Especially the
He's a
new
little
gym
bit-
floor that's going in, it's gonna bring a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's the idea, right? We want people to be excited about it, not nervous about it.
We want Justin to get all the credit too.
No, I think it sounded like you just volunteered for
What would
drafting
you
up.
like me to do?
Would you like to draft some sort of communication?
I can sure try. I might have to chat with you guys to make sure I know what I'm talking about, but. Who are you thinking when, like, I know they sometimes do emails that go out to families, or what are you thinking, staff, or are you thinking?
I'm not thinking anything right now. I'm picking up your suggestion and kind of,
Well, I don't want it to just be.
Well,
me.
you
We have a
could,
whole
you could
committee.
provide it to the Sun, you could provide it to Dr. Gusso's.
There were a lot of questions for Steve at the kindergarten. Kickoff, like just, hey, what's going on? Like here, the bond passed, like just, it was no negative questions, just questions. So there is a hunger.
You could probably reach out to Julia and Ashley and they'll give you a little, board that could be put out to the public.
Why don't we reach out to them? and get them?
That would be fine. I can do that, yeah.
Right.
Thank
Reach out to us.
Okay, you reach out to us.
okay. So, all right, I guess we should probably queue that up for discussion at our next building committee meeting, because it should be communication that's kind of going out prior to the last day of school. You know, what we've done, what to expect, and what's on the horizon when everybody comes back to school. Okay,
The whole bus loop is in a food yet, right? There's a lot more work has to get done.
Yeah.
But having it out there to replace the floor is.
As long as we're gonna replace the floor, figure out.
So,
Don't say it, they're not good.
I think it would be beneficial to understand how often that stage is used, right? I mean, I know there are students that are in wheelchairs that attend DOMS. So I want to make sure that we're not.
Well, that's a conversation we'll have with Ashley and we'll reach out to Steve and Susan and get some input.
And also we should figure out, are they using it because it's there or because they need it to be there?
Right.
And then they're just using, well, we have this, and they can do it anyplace else. I mean, I know it's been used for special functions. But other than that, I don't remember.
Audrey made a perfect point. She said, we're doing it down on the floor.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, anything else that you'd like to see? I think that was a great point. Kristen.
I thought you were mad.
What's that?
I thought you were with that.
No, this is, no.
Okay.
All right, item number 12, public comment. Any members of the public wish to address the building subcommittee?
Senator, anything?
We have a public comment agenda item if you'd like to address, otherwise we can just,
Okay, I already, spoke before.
great. Okay,
I'll comment it out.
yes. Okay, so we're at the point of everybody's favorite agenda item. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
There's a second. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.